Okay, you guys, welcome back to the Strong Women Podcast. I am so glad you're here. Today, I've asked Maggie to come on because we are going to talk about all things just wrapping up this season and looking forward. So anyway, Maggie's come on and she's going to lead us along in this conversation. Maggie, how are you?
Girl, I'm doing so good. It's so good to see you. I'm excited to be here back with the Strong Women podcast community. It's just the best place to be.
I think so too.
Well, I am so excited to really dive into one, as this is the final episode of this season. And so really reflecting on what this season of the Strong Women podcast has meant, what this fall has looked like, and really curious to know what you're learning, what you've learned this fall and what the Lord's teaching you. So I guess we'll start there. What are you learning this fall?
Okay, I love this question. Isn't this a fun question to just ask in any situation? What are you learning right now? Because so many fun things come out of that question. But I'd say I'm learning a lot from this season and all the conversations that we've been able to have. A couple themes really stand out to me. One is that the thing that we think takes us out of any meaningful work is so often the thing that God calls us to invest in. And so what I mean by that is I think of right away Lisa Stephen. She runs the organization Hope House Colorado, and she had a teenage pregnancy, and those are the kind of things that you think, oh, my life is over, I can't do anything meaningful, but that's the very thing that God called her to speak into and give life to. And now she's running Hope House Colorado, which helps teenage moms. Wow. And then I think of Jean Marie Davis, who was sex trafficked, and now she works in helping rescue girls, but also directs a pregnancy center. So those are the themes that kind of stand out. Now, those are kind of extreme themes, but we all have those things in our lives where we're like, well, that's embarrassing, or I don't know if I can do anything meaningful because of, X, Y, and Z. And listeners, I can imagine you're kind of filling in the gaps of that sentence for yourself. And let me just encourage you that might be the very thing that God weighs heavy on your heart, for you to actually bring his kingdom here and now. And N.T. Wright says, when we say your kingdom come, it means may your reign be recognized here. Not only here, but also here in my heart as it is in heaven. And so it's those heavy things that often help us do that. So that's one of the themes. Did you want to say something about that?
Well, I'm thinking about in that context, and you love to talk about, being known by God, but also knowing him, and then what it looks like to participate with him in this time and place. I mean, that's a common theme with the Colson Center, right? In this time and place. Yeah. But I love what you talked about with it can seem so little and not important, this time and place of the season that we're called to right now. So how do we partner with God in this season right now? How do we remember to do that?
Oh, I love it. You know me well enough that I'm like so drived by this question. I do love this question. And it's so fun to see all the stories on the Strong Women podcast, how, speaking to that, this time and place in our corners of the world, one of the loose definitions that I came up with for what is a strong woman is that she develops eyes to see the world around her with all its beauty and brokenness, and to love as Christ loves with the gifts she's been given in the corners of the world where she finds herself. And you can see that on a big scale, like these women who have started organizations or are doing kind of crazy things and have big platforms. It always started by developing eyes to see the world around them and to look right in front of them, right? And so sometimes it does lead to something seemingly big, but so often it leads to just the intentional thing right in front of us. And what I love about that is, first of all, that there are no small things really, that it all is impactful and it all is shaping in some form or another. And I love that it's true of these big scale things, but it's also true of walking faithfully in the everyday living. And it's been really fun this fall. I've had the opportunity to speak at a couple women's retreats. And when I talk about this, they get so encouraged. And I've had so many people come up to me afterwards, like one person in particular came up and she was like, I'm so encouraged by thinking about what's right in front of me, because I did want to jump over that. And I didn't realize it until you said that, because that's one thing I say a lot is like, we so want to jump over the small things right in front of us because we want to do something big and noticeable, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so anyway, she said, I've been asking God, like, what do you have for me to do? Like, what, just kind of feeling a little lost. And she said, but as soon as you said that, what's right in front of you, I realized, like, I still have really young kids at home. And that is what's right in front of me right now. And I was so encouraged by that, because yes, and we want to jump over that because nobody necessarily sees it. It's not praised in public necessarily, but that is where God's called us to. And vocation always starts with that reciprocity of love. God, the first intertrinitarian council, let us make man in our image. It was out of love that we were created. It's out of love that we're sustained. It's out of love that we're guided. And then when we become Christ's own, we're not just God, me, and my Bible. We're wrapped up into that love. So then now, that's our main vocation too, is this giving and receiving love. And we overlook that.
That's so good. We do. And in this culture of this influencer culture of everyone's a public person, anyone that has social media or anyone that just gets dressed and walk out of your house that day, like you are a public person. And so how do we see what's right in front of us? I think that, something else that you talk about all the time is to not just being known by God, but also knowing Him. And we can't love well if we don't know love Himself. Sometimes the thing that is the most impactful, the most effective thing we can do is to go sit at His feet with Him. And then that's what gives us the eyes to be able to see what's right in front of us. So as we're going into this, Christmas season, the holiday season and everything, there's so much in front of us right now. Last year we talked a good bit about Advent and the importance of slowing down and remembering. How would you encourage us to enter into this season knowing that there's a lot that's about to be thrown at us? How do we enter into this season with open hands and eyes to see what is right in front of us?
Yeah, one of the reasons that Advent was kind of established as part of the rhythms of the church is that, think back to Israel. All their feasting, their fasting, their celebrations, their whole year was patterned out of remembrance, out of remembering certain acts and rescuing and the faithfulness of God. Like all of that was patterned into their year. And they repeated it every year because they knew, as we know, that we're forgetful people. And we have that same amnesia that Israel had. We need to be reminded all the time. We're forgetful people, and we remember the signs together, and we have to rehearse them together. And so think about how our year is patterned. Listeners, how is your year patterned? Because in our moment, we have to really choose to align with that feasting and fasting in remembrance. And so Advent is a time to mark and set apart and to rehearse that story of the great King has sent His Son to rescue us, and He's taken on our humanity And from the beginning, it's a story of God wanting to dwell with his people. And here he dwells with us in the flesh. And so what are some ways that you can mark this time as different? And it doesn't have to be a big shebang. Think about what's doable. In fact, when I first started observing Advent as a young mom, I felt all this pressure to do all the cutesy things, like I'm going to make a dozen cookies and give them to my neighbors today, which that's actually not that hard for a lot of people. But with 3 little kids at the time, I was like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. And so I threw away all those cutesy craft Advent books because, I mean, if you like that, do it. But I just didn't. And I thought, what is doable? And some of the doable things were like, I play the Messiah in the background during the day, Handel's Messiah. And the girls are already taking pictures of their Spotify list, and it's Handel's Messiah, and so it's kind of the
Wait,
rhythm.
you mean like, are you like a listen to Christmas music like before Thanksgiving? Are you
Yes,
that girl?
and that is not truly adhering to Advent, but yes, because Advent actually
Me too, proudly.
I know. Actually, it like historically, the rule, there's some guidelines, maybe not rule, but you're not supposed to listen to Christmas music till Christmas Eve. And then you listen the whole 12 days of Christmas, because Christmas is a 12-day feast in the church year. But I just can't. I can't do that. And so there you go. You can throw out everything I'm saying because I can't adhere to that. But
see, there are some things that are God's best, and those are the things we want to hold closely to. There are other things that are man's preference, and those are the things that, when to listen to Christmas music. I'm like, I don't think that the Lord is going to be upset if we listen to Christmas music early.
I don't think so either. and actually, Abigail, my oldest, has this theory that Mary was actually pregnant for 9 months, so we could technically celebrate with Christmas music.
I like her thinking.
9 months of the year, yeah. But anyway, so what are some of those small things you can do? I change out what I'm reading in the mornings. With my quiet time, I add in some kind of reflection about Advent. So the readings that I come back to the most are from a book called Love Came Down. It's Anglican readings for Advent and Christmas. So as you're looking for an Advent book to read, you want to look for something that goes all the way through Christmas, because it's a whole coherent season. And it's the 12 days of Christmas all the way up to Epiphany, which is January 6th. I also really love Light Upon Light, which is poetry for the season. So I add that too. Think of small, doable ways that you can just mark this season as a little bit different. Even if it's like, we're going to read some scripture at dinner and light a candle. Like, those kind of things seem like insignificant, but they really do mark a time as different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And I love that you're so honest. Last year, when we dove into Advent and really talked about all the practicalities of it, which if you have not listened to or just want to refresh on that, it's a great episode. I'm sure it can be linked in the show notes. But you're not a crafty mom. Like, again, going back to the influencer culture, my Instagram feed is full of different tips and tricks, and you should be doing this and you shouldn't be doing that, and with decorations, but also just festive things to activities and things to do and ways to mark the season is different. And there is so much pressure there. And I love that you're just on, like, I'm not a crafty mom. So, like, if that's not, like, what that goes back to, like, what is right in front of you? What can you do this season with what you have right in front of you? I think that's so beautiful. What would you say to the strong woman who does feel overwhelmed going into this season? What is something that you can encourage her with right now?
Yeah, okay. Before going into the season, maybe take an hour and take inventory of why you're feeling overwhelmed. You know, what is there anything you can say no to? What do you definitely want to say yes to? Because all the things are so good this time of year, but what are the things you definitely don't want to miss? and then start from there, start building from there. And you might have to say no to things, but even in the saying no, you're trusting the Lord, right? You can trust that, like Ephesians 2 says, that he has prepared the good works for us to walk in. So I think about that a lot, because as moms, sometimes it feels like our days aren't our own. Like we can have a great, I don't know that this is just a mom thing. Is it, Maggie? Like you think your day's your own, and then you get into it and you realize like, whoa, there's a bunch of curveballs being thrown at me.
Yeah, there are times that like I know what my family wants from me. I know what my friends want from me. I know what my team wants from me. I know what the people I'm leading want from me. And yet I'm like, I don't even know. And I know what God wants from me. Like, and so even that's like getting out of alignment there, of just like, I feel the pressure from everyone to do everything all the time. And I'm a single adult. Like I'm not even tied to a husband or kids, and yet I feel that pressure. And so there is definitely this space that like I have to quiet the noise and like get back into the alignment of the heart with the Father and see what is it that I'm supposed to say yes to in the season, because every yes is a no to something else. And so, and I don't want to miss it. Like all throughout Scripture, we said the disciples missed what was right in front of them. And it's easy to like dog on them because we have the whole story now. And so, and they didn't. So there's so much grace there, but there's so many times that they missed it and what Jesus was teaching them, what was right in front of them. I don't want to miss what's right in front of me, what the Lord is calling me to, what he's trying to teach me. And I cannot fully understand and know what he is trying to teach me that's right in front of me if I am too cluttered and allowing too much noise from everyone else, including social media, into my own life.
Yes, that's so true. So this is a human problem. This is not just moms feeling out of control.
Yeah.
And I think that there's so many times where I come back to that, okay, Lord, this is looking different than I thought it would. But I trust you. We can trust him that he's prepared the good works for us to walk in, and it might look different than we thought it was going to look, right?
Definitely.
And so as you're looking at the season, I guess the best posture that I can think of is like, come to it with open hands, be intentional, but be listening and trusting the Lord as you walk through each day.
Yeah, that's so good. One of the big pieces of Advent and going into this season is reflection. And even as we are even about to transition from fall to winter and in closing this season of the podcast, has there been an episode or a story, a conversation that happened this season on the podcast that you keep going back to, that you just can't stop thinking about?
Yeah, and it has to do with vocation, because a couple weeks ago I got to have on my good friend Steve Garber. He wrote a book called Visions of Vocation, which has been really influential in my understanding of time and place. And one of the things he said is that at the heart, all of us ask, why am I here and what am I to do? You know, that's kind of a human questions. And to begin to answer those questions, he said, we have to ask, what am I to see and know and love? And, or who? Who or what am I to see and know and love? And that takes practice. It takes trusting the Lord. It takes prayer. And it takes action. And so often it looks completely different than we anticipated, right? And so that has stood out to me because it also sheds light on all the stories that we've been able to hear throughout the season too, of that starting with what am I to see and know and love. And I think there's just, and back to the other theme that came out was this the thing we think is going to take us out is actually often the thing that God calls us to. And I think about where we started with this season with Chloe Cole, who had gone down like way deep into that road of transitioning, or so she thought, even having a double mastectomy and doing all the hormones and things like that. And she stopped and started to speak out about the lie that she had been captured about. And she said that she met so many Christians while she was speaking out against this lie that's taking so many, especially young women, captive. Yep. And she was so overwhelmed by their love and their support for her that she was introduced to Christ because of that.
Wow.
And so now she said, that's the best part of my story, not just like detransitioning, but actually becoming new with Christ. And
wow.
So many of the themes play into that. It's the thing that she thought would take her out. Now she is having huge influence in this, in exposing this lie. And then those people that just were kind and supportive of her, they were seeing what was right in front of them, and knowing and loving. And God used all of that and is using all of that. And I just love that he wants us to participate with him. He doesn't do it on his own. He could, but he says,
totally,
what do you have to offer? Like, and what is that small obedience? What is the small opening yourself up to what I'm doing? 'Cause I want you to join in with me, you know?
Yeah. That is where those small acts of obedience truly do hold eternal weight, eternal impact. There is eternal impact based on those believers that were seeking his heart, were able to see Chloe not for the lie that she was walking in, but for as the person that the Lord created her to be, able to bring truth and love into her life. That episode is powerful. If you haven't listened to that one, go listen to that. I also saw that she's going to be speaking at CCNC next year, which is amazing. So yeah, I love that. That's so powerful.
Yeah, so the Colson Center National Conference happens every year. This year, it's May 29th through the 31st in Knoxville, Tennessee. And the theme is, You Are Here. And so it's going to be a lot about vocation and calling to this time and place. And yeah, Chloe Cole will be there. There'll be a lot of amazing speakers there. Carl Truman. Those are the few that just pop into my head, but there's way more. So you can go to colsonconference.org to sign up for that. But yeah, good plug,
That's
Maggie.
That's going to be awesome. So going back to speakers, Sarah, I know that you've actually been invited to come speak at several women's events recently. Would you talk about two things? One, will you share to anyone who's listening and is like, man, I would love to have Sarah come speak at my event. Will you share what your heart is for women at these events? And two, how do they get in contact with you to talk to you about this if they do want to invite you to come speak?
Okay, yes, I've had so much fun speaking at these women's retreats because it's a smaller, more intimate group, and we can just really brainstorm what it means to walk faithfully with Christ where we are. And so a lot of what we talk about is what we've talked about on the podcast so far, is just like knowing and being known by God. What does that look like? And then from there, he invites us to participate with him. So what does that look like? And then also, we're forgetful people. And so how do we keep these truths in our mind? How do we remind each other about our true story and things like that? So I've had just such a fun time talking to these different women's groups. And yes, I'd love to come speak with you guys. You can reach out and find me at Colson Center at colsoncenter.org. So Colson Center at colsoncenter.org. One of the things that's really fun to see is that these truths resonate with women. You know, they want to grow in their love and knowledge for the Lord, and they want to hash out together, what does it look like to live faithfully right now? And so, I just have so much fun hearing from these different women, different seasons of life, and different places in the country talk about that.
So special. I love that. So, Sarah, as we wrap up, we've talked a lot. You talk about it all the time. We talked about it several times already throughout this conversation about small obediences. And I know, because I know you, that Johnny Erickson taught us a story about small obediences and building a muscular faith has impacted you greatly. And these conversations have impacted my faith greatly too. And so as we wrap up, what does small obedience look like for you right now?
Well, I'm going to get real right now because this is an interesting season being a mom. I've got 2 girls who have gone off to college, and I still have 2 at home. But my 16-year-old is driving, and, I know she's like midway through her junior year. I know this is going to fly by, so I'm already kind of anticipating her leaving. And then I've got an 8-year-old. He'll be with me forever. But actually, I'm kidding because I know the time flies. But all that to say, it is a strange time in mothering when they start to fly away. And it's funny, anytime I meet a mom who has kids in college or, just leaving the house, like, the first thing I say is, isn't this a weird time? Because I just want to know, like, is anybody else feeling this? Like, this is so hard. And I'm realizing that it's a new opportunity. Actually, a friend of mine told me this recently. She was like, it's a new opportunity to trust the Lord in a different way with your kids. Because I know that the Lord loves my kids more than I do. But I really do like to control their lives. So I wish, but at the end of the day, I know that He is more trustworthy than I am, and that I really can trust Him in this season. And He shows this to me in little ways of taking care of my kids, and they're far away. And so I'm learning to trust Him in that. And I'm also learning to trust Him in a new thing, and that is that I have been praying about the podcast since about April. Just like, Lord, is this something to continue with, or is it something to that has really been super fun and I should give it a rest for a while? And I have been more and more led towards it's time to give it a rest for a while, which is so hard to say to you listeners because I've just had such a good time and grown so much from all these conversations that we've shared together. And but this is the last episode for a while. And that is really hard, you guys, because I don't really know what's next. And I don't even know if there's anything that's next. And that's okay, because here again, I can trust the Lord. And like my husband said, well, even if there's nothing new that's next, you do have plenty of things going. But so I think that's a focus too, is trying to be very intentional with the things that I am invested in. And so now I'm just starting to ramble. But it's hard to talk about because it's fresh and I'm sad, but I do feel peace about it at the same time.
Well, and it can be hard because the Strong Women podcast is a good thing. This is a ministry that the Lord has used to impact lives. And so it can look like, what do you mean you would lay this down right now? Well, it's because everything needs to be held with open hands.
Yeah.
And that in this season, as you've been discerning for months and praying into this for months and seeking godly, wise counsel about this for months, you recognize every yes is a no to something else. And so right now the Lord's asking you to trust Him and to lay this down, and you're doing it with open hands, with grace and with ease, and it is evident, and it's speaking loudly to me. It is evident how much you do trust the Lord, because you know that the Lord's heart is for women, and He He's just used you, and he's used these stories in such a powerful way that really does hold eternal weight. And so I want to say thank you for showing up in this space, for leading these conversations. And I'm trying not to get emotional because the Strong Women podcast has impacted my life. It's impacted literally thousands of people. And so thank you for being consistent, for showing up, for leading, but also thank you for choosing obedience, because I don't know what the Lord has next for you or for this show or for these women even, but I do know that he is a faithful God that is completely worthy of our trust. And all we have to do is look back and remember. And he has proven time and time again throughout his word and throughout our lives that he is trustworthy. And so I'm grateful for the way that you're modeling this in this, like, I don't know what's next. I don't even know why. I just know I'm supposed to say yes. And so I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to trust the Lord with this. So
thank you. That's so encouraging, Maggie, and kind. Thank you for saying all that. And you said it so well. And I guess I would challenge our listeners to join me on this in saying, what is, like Johnny said, what is the small act of obedience? Fill in the blank, because God, first of all, God inspires us to ask that question. He inspires us to walk with him. And so you can trust that he'll answer the question too. What is the small act of obedience? And you can trust that he will work with it, you know? I mean, I'm even thinking of small stories in scripture where, you know, God could do all this on his own. He doesn't need us in that way, but he chooses to not do it on his own and work with us, which is crazy. And it gives us such a huge purpose and identity that we are doing meaningful things with him. And but I think of the story, when I think about this, that small act of obedience and that God just works with it. I think about the feeding of the 5,000 when you know, the disciples are like, hey, Jesus, like, people are getting pretty hungry. And Jesus is like, well, what do we have? And Andrew turns and he's like, I mean, we have 5 loaves and 2 fish. And Jesus is like, okay, I'll work with that. And I love that story because he took Andrew's little kind of risky, a little bit silly offering, like 5 loaves and 2 fish, and he ran with it. And so anyway, I would just challenge us all to kind of think about that. What is that small act of obedience that seems risky, maybe, that seems out of our comfort zone? And because this is definitely out of my comfort zone, it's definitely hard to say, yeah, I'll say no. And I don't even know what I'm saying yes to, in a way. I mean, I do. In a lot of ways I do, because I do have a lot going that I'm already invested in. But I don't know if that makes sense. But
it does. Yeah,
so join me with that.
Well, before we wrap up, I love the definition that you shared with us at the beginning of the episode about your definition of a strong woman. So will you leave us with that today?
Yes. Okay. A strong woman develops eyes to see the world around her with all its beauty and brokenness, and to love as Christ loves, with the gifts she's been given in the corners of the world where she finds herself.
That's so beautiful. And so, strong women, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for listening. I hope that this conversation has encouraged you. I hope that you are excited for this new season. I hope you take these conversations and everything, all the wisdom that has been poured out from Sarah and the various guests that have been a part of this show. And I hope that this is just the beginning of a season to launch you into whatever the Lord is calling you to have eyes to see what is right in front of you. So thank you. Sarah, we love you so much. Thank you for leading.
Oh, thanks, Maggie. It's been a blast doing this conversation with you.